Have you ever stopped to think about all the things you're not doing simply because you're uncomfortable? Maybe it's a conversation you're struggling to have, or a decision you really need to make, or a move you know would change everything for you, but fear keeps holding you back. Today, I'll be showing you how to move past that fear using the strategies that I learned from the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And it is going to be very, very insightful. We're going to dig deep, address those fears, and uncover the real cost of inaction. So let's talk about how you can start doing more of what truly matters to you, starting right away. My name is Tamiri Adewiyi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or share it with your friends. So let's get right into it with the thoughts that struck me while reading this book. A person's success in life can often be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations they are willing to have. It is true, isn't it? The things that scare us are often what hold the key to our next big leap. Ferriss emphasizes that these fears, these uncomfortable actions are exactly where we need to focus. And that's why it broke down this whole thing into different parts. So in the first part, he talked about defining your worst case scenario. Right? Now, here's where it gets really practical. Ferriss recommends a powerful exercise, which he calls defining your nightmare. That is, what is the absolute worst case scenario if you actually went through with the change and made the decision you really need to make now? What are the real risks associated, the actual consequences? Would they be permanent, or could there be things that will be temporary? And even if you encounter that stumbling block, you can actually recover from them. Envision it in detail, write all of those things down. Why? Because often once we define our fears, we realize they are nowhere near as terrifying as we first thought. A lot of times we just overthink things and we exaggerate a lot of things. For example, I once had a massive decision to make, and you know what scared me the most? It was not the action itself, but the story I built up in my own head, the what ifs. But when I finally took a hard look at it and evaluated the whole situation, I saw that even if things went sideways, I would still be okay. I was actually just overthinking things. That's what you need to realize. Your fears are often just roadblocks that you've put up in your own mind to actually stop you from going from where you are at the moment to the place where you really should be. Also, Tim Ferriss went ahead to talk about a concept called reversible risks. That is, what if you could plan out a backup plan? That is, you basically have a second plan in case things don't go as you want them to go. And here's an interesting thought. If your worst case scenario did happen, what could you do to recover from it? Ferriss calls this reversible risk, and it's incredibly freeing because once you know there's a way back, even if things don't go as planned or things don't work out for you, you have something that you can always fall back to, and it removes a huge burden from you and takes away all of the fear holding you back. Now, think about it. What's the worst case or worst scenario that would happen, and what steps could you take to repair it even if things actually go sideways? So let's say for me, I'm trying to take a very bold decision to quit my job. I know the worst case scenario would be that I would have to go back to go look for another job. And is anything really bad in that? Not at all. So imagine the relief you would feel knowing you're not as vulnerable as you think you are, and that gives you all of the confidence to face that fear and actually go ahead to overcome the fear and take the risk that you need to take. Also, Ferriss went ahead to talk about the real cost of inaction. So a lot of times we are so quick to think about what it will cost us to take a chance. But have you ever actually considered the cost of not even taking this action, right? Ferriss basically went ahead to flip the script here, reminding us that the real risk is often staying stuck where we are and not taking the action that we need to take. Imagine where you will be a year from now or 5 years from now if you keep putting things off and not doing those things that you really want to do and the things that matter to you. How will you feel knowing you spent years avoiding what you could have done, transforming your life? And of course, if you don't do these things, your life will remain the same. Personally, for me, at the beginning of the year 2024, when I decided I was going to quit my job, I thought about the worst case scenario, and then I thought about the place where I really wanted to be in the next 5 years. And I knew for a fact that if I decided to keep my job, I wouldn't be there no matter what. So I took that big leap. I did quit my job, and that's why I've been able to make a lot more progress than I thought I would be able to make. So when I thought about this, it's really hard. The pain of staying where I was actually felt worse than the fear of trying out that bold thing that I really wanted to try and actually quit that job. And that realization was what pushed me forward, because once you start calculating the cost of inaction, you realize that time is slipping away, and so is your chance to do something. And guess what? The older you become, the higher your chances of not taking that risk anymore. And at the end of the day, you might end up living a life that would not be as meaningful as you want it to be. Also, Ferriss went ahead to talk about what exactly is this thing that you're avoiding by not taking the risk. So what are you putting off? What's that one action, that conversation, that decision you've been avoiding? Ferriss says that what we most fear doing is often what we most need to do. This leap is really powerful. What if your success could really be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have? Imagine the breakthroughs waiting for you on the other side of the fear of those conversations, of those actions that you really don't want to take. So I really want to challenge you to take a moment to identify one thing you've really been putting off and avoiding over the last few months, the last few years, and can you actually go ahead to challenge yourself to face it this week or even this month, just before this year ends? Because often that one step is what stands between you and your goals, and you need to start embracing the discomfort as a daily practice. And this is what Tim Ferriss talked about in his next point, whereby Ferriss went ahead to suggest doing something every day that scares you. A lot of people don't know how to do things that scare them. Once they see anything that scares them, they put it off. And the logic behind doing something every day that scares you is that success is actually a habit, and so is action. Repetition builds resilience, and soon those once uncomfortable tasks. Think about it. What's one thing you could do today that you actually had to push your boundaries to do? So let's say you couldn't ride a bike and now you can ride a bike. That is one thing that you pushed your boundaries to do, because a lot of people, even till date, are still scared of riding a bike because they don't want to fall down, right? So I want you to comment below with something you're willing to tackle today and you really want to take that bold move and leap to tackle so that your 2025 becomes your best year ever. Let's make it real, because the more uncomfortable steps you take, the closer you get to the life you really want. So what's stopping you? If you've been waiting for the right time, consider this your sign, because I just didn't think about making this video. It was something that also just resonated with me, and I felt like, oh, this is something that you would learn from. So I want you to take this as your sign and take that massive leap. The truth is, the longer you wait, the greater the risk becomes, because Ferriss leaves us with a takeaway which is shared in his book, where he shared that action is the antidote to fear. That is, if you don't take action, you really would not be able to conquer fear. The cost of inaction is high, but the rewards of action, think about it, it is actually enormous. They are actually enormous, and they can become that life-changing move for you only if you take the action. If this resonates with you, hit the like button, share this with someone who needs a push this year, going into the next year, and subscribe for more videos like this. And I'm looking forward to seeing you take action to building a life that becomes extremely meaningful for you and becomes extremely productive for you going into the new year. And remember, the next time you're faced with fear, think about how powerful it could be to face it head on. Success is just a few uncomfortable conversations away, and you need to start having those conversations now. You need to start taking those actions now, and the sky would be your starting point. See you in the next video.